I'm Daniel Penny, and you're listening to Non-Toxic.
I stand before you today with one unmistakable message about Operation Epic Fury. America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy.
We're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah, Stone Ages.
In case you've been living under a rock, the United States is at war with Iran, and Operation Epic Fury has, over the past few weeks, turned into Operation Epic Fail. 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, a sliver of ocean between Iran and the Gulf states. Since the beginning of the US-Israeli war in Iran, that traffic has slowed to a trickle, which has sent the price of oil skyward. In the first month of the conflict, the world's top 100 oil and gas companies made a windfall, raking in more than $30 million in unearned profit per hour. But those same price shocks are changing the long-term math on fossil fuels faster than Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act ever could. In his first year in office, President Trump did everything he could to kill renewables, the EPA, and climate science generally. But his threats to blow up a civilization are sending investors into solar and wind. Countries around the world are doing everything they can to accelerate the transition because whether they care about the climate crisis or not, they recognize that there's no choke point on the sun. And as American voters watch those prices tick ever higher, many are starting to feel like they got screwed. To understand the economic and political implications of all of this, I reached out to Don Walter. He's a principal at Ember. They're a global energy think tank that is all about accelerating the clean energy transition with data and policy.
It was only 4 years ago that Russia's invasion of Ukraine caused gas prices to spike across the world, which also led to oil prices going up, which also led to coal prices going up. This is now the second time that that's hitting global markets. And many are realizing that this is now sort of the new normal of fossil fuels.
This is a special kind of newsy episode I decided to do. I think it's a really interesting conversation, and it's one that's not really happening that I've seen anywhere else in major media outlets. So if you want to understand how the insane aggression of the Trump administration may actually be the greatest piece of blowback in the history of renewables, this is a conversation you're going to want to hear in full. To do that, sign up to become a paid subscriber of Non-Toxic today. All right, here we go. With me now is Don Walter, principal at Ember. Don, welcome to the show.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
So I'm very much not a foreign policy expert. I have been following the news and seeing what's been happening in Iran and have watched oil prices skyrocket. As this disaster started to unfurl, it made me think, oh, I wonder what's going to happen with renewable energy. So I thought maybe you could start with just what is the effect that the conflict in Iran is having on the oil markets as you understand it? Because, even day to day, by the time this comes out, it'll probably be different.
Things might have changed 3 times over.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the best way to conceive of what's happening in oil markets right now is to think about this in 3 time horizons. Like there's the immediate sort of humanitarian crisis impact of 20% of global oil demand getting locked out of the global energy markets. That's oil that used to be mostly destined towards Asia, and that's where most of the hits are currently now being felt. Just energy shortages, we should expect industrial closures, shuttering, schools closing, etc. That's the immediate impact of this disaster.
And where in Asia, just to be specific?
So it is primarily countries like Bangladesh. We've seen, for instance, Sri Lanka already now has a 4-day work week. This is disastrous also for Korea, for Japan. China is still also a large oil importer, but has been, I would say, probably a bit more prescient over the past decade.
So it's more smaller countries and countries that don't have the same kind of energy reserves or renewable infrastructure built out yet in Asia. They're suffering this immediate energy crisis. And then That's on the kind of shortest term. And you said there were 2 other time horizons.
Exactly, and then so the immediate term in some perspective is also sort of the least strategically interesting because it's just disaster response. That's really what needs to happen. Stocks need to get released. The economy needs to get shuttered to just make sure that countries stay within their bounds of the energy that's available. Then that's kind of like the 6-month kind of perspective. Then you look at like the 12-month perspective of what this is actually mean then over the next year and maybe the next 2 years. And that's, I think, where it starts getting interesting because we're starting to see responses from all over the world of like, this is now the second shock in 4 years because it was only 4 years ago that Russia's invasion of Ukraine caused gas prices to spike across the world, which also led to oil prices going up, which also led to coal prices going up. This is now the second time that that's hitting global markets. And many are realizing that this is now sort of the new normal of fossil fuels. And the new normal is this much more volatile environment that you need to now deal with. They were no longer can rely on steady price, steady supply fossil fuels from international waters. And that means that you need to think about retooling your energy system in a completely different way than just sort of weathering the storm, right? Back in the Ukraine crisis 22, there was still very much this attitude of like short-term crisis relief. And then hopefully within 1 or 2 years, things will go back to normal. That was the attitude. I think that attitude is no longer there. No one expects this to be sort of going back to normal. Even if the crisis abates, even for miraculous reasons, we find out that the damage in the Gulf is not that bad, which I think is not the case. But say that happens, even then, it's now clear that this is the new normal.
To hear the rest of this conversation, you're going to have to become a paid subscriber to Non-Toxic. But luckily, it's really easy to do that. Just go to substack.com/nontoxicpodcast/subscribe and sign up today. And you can listen to the rest of an interview that might just change your understanding of where renewables are headed. Why not give it a try?